We love to glorify our founding fathers, but the fact of the matter is they were only human. Luckily for us, they realized this, and in their framework for a new government known as the Constitution, they included the provision that changes or amendments may be added at a later date if 3/4 of the states approve. This provision was used right away to create the Bill of Rights, the 10 most famous amendments. These were all drafted by James Madison to satisfy the anti-federalist worries that the new Constitution was too powerful. The First Amendment contains the most basic freedoms: speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. To many school kids, the First Amendment is the Bill of Rights, but the remaining 9 are just as important. The Second Amendment provides the right to bear arms and maintain a well-regulated militia. This amendment, possibly more than any other, has created controversy. On one side are those who point to the right to bear arms and argue that taking away any weapons is against the law. On the other side are those who argue that the context of the amendment is about the military and basic safety of the people, for which assault weapons are not required. The Third Amendment makes it so that soldiers cannot force homeowners to quarter them or give them residence. The Fourth Amendment protects citizens from being searched or having their property taken illegally. It's also the reason cops on crime shows always complain about needing probable cause to get a warrant. The Fifth Amendment also contains a number of cop show references and makes certain that persons cannot be held or put on trial without being charged with a crime. It allows those on trial to plead the Fifth or refuse to be a witness against themselves, otherwise known as the right to be silent. The Fifth also includes protection from being tried for the same crime twice, and the right to life, liberty, and property unless taken by due process of law. Six gives the right to trial by jury, to confront the accusing witness and to obtain a lawyer. 7 extends all those rights I just mentioned to civil or common cases. The Eighth Amendment protects against excessive fines as well as cruel and unusual punishments. The Ninth and 10th Amendments usually go together and are possibly the most important. 9 makes it clear that even if a right is not listed in the Bill of Rights, that doesn't mean people don't have it. The 10th takes all the power not specifically given to the federal government by the Constitution and gives it to the states and the people. 11 prevents states from being sued by members of other states in the Supreme Court. 12 is a very long and very dense amendment which describes a procedure when no president receives a majority of electoral votes. The House of Representatives would vote and each state would receive 1 vote. The 13th Amendment was only unlucky if you owned slaves, as they were legally freed. If you owned slaves, you also probably lived in the South, so 14 wasn't any better. It made former slave citizens, punished slaves for not giving them suffrage, made it so ex-Confederate politicians couldn't run for office, and made it clear that the U.S. would not be paying off Confederate war debts. Apparently all that wasn't clear enough, though, so the 15th Amendment was required to spell out specifically that black men could vote. It was nearly 50 years before the next amendment, number 16, was ratified. It allowed Congress to begin collecting income tax. Believe it or not, some people actually wanted this at one point, mostly the poor who hated the tariff. Senators used to be chosen by the state legislature, then the 17th Amendment was passed, so they were elected directly by the people. The 18th Amendment was prohibition. No longer could alcohol be produced, consumed, or sold. This amendment created bootleggers, and when the bootleggers started racing their cars, NASCAR. The 19th Amendment, at long last, gave women the right to vote, only 120 years after the country started. The 20th Amendment moved the start of the president's term from March to January, thus shortening the so-called lame duck period and making everything move a little more smoothly. The 21st Amendment repealed number 18 and allowed alcohol to be sold and produced and consumed once more. This ended the time of bootleggers, although NASCAR remained. Every president since George Washington had limited themselves to 2 terms or less, until FDR was elected to 4. Congress responded by enacting the 22nd Amendment, legally limiting the president to 2 terms. Washington, D.C. residents' cries of taxation without representation were silenced when they were granted 3 electoral college votes with the 23rd Amendment. The 24th outlawed the poll tax, which discriminated against poor voters. The 25th Amendment clarified the procedure for vacancies in the presidency and vice presidency. The 26th Amendment lowered the voting age from 21 to 18, pretty simple. And finally, 27. It made it illegal for Congress to raise its own pay without being re-elected first. And so, that's it. All 27 amendments, how they happened.